I will now turn, Madam Vice President, to the Secretary General's interim report on the human rights situation in the Islamic Republic of Iran, covering the period from 1 August 2024 to 31 January 2025. The Secretary General's report notes with serious concern the high number of executions that took place during the reporting period, with at least 975 people executed in 2024. Just over half, this represents the highest number of reported executions since 2015. Just over half of these executions were for drug-related offenses, and 4 reported executions were carried out in public. The authorities continued to carry out executions in connection with the September 2022 protests under the banner Woman, Life, Freedom, and against political dissidents. At least 31 women were reportedly executed in 2024, compared to at least 22 women executed the previous year. At least 108 Baluch prisoners and 84 Kurdish prisoners were executed in 2024. While the number of children sentenced to death has declined overall since 2014, at least 1 child was executed in 2024. The report also expresses concern about prisoners suffering amputation as a form of corporal punishment. It was disproportionately used against people from marginalized, low-income communities, and this is particularly troubling given the country's ongoing economic crisis, the high unemployment, and rising poverty. Cases are marked by serious allegations of torture and due process violations, including the lack of access to a lawyer. Iran does not publish official figures on death penalty sentences and executions. The report urges the government to halt all executions and impose an immediate moratorium on the death penalty as a first step towards its abolition. The authorities must also prohibit the execution of offenders who were under 18 at the time of the alleged crime, as well as respect due process and fair trial rights in line with international norms and standards. With regard to accountability efforts, the report notes the military court verdict on the 2022 Bloody Friday incident in Zahdan, where security forces opened fire on Sunni Baluch protesters. The incident resulted in over 100 reported deaths, and while some lower-level officers received prison sentences, there are serious concerns about the adequacy, transparency, and fairness of the judicial process. The report urges the authorities to prosecute and hold accountable public officials, including law enforcement officials, who violate international human rights law, and to make public the findings of those investigations. Civic space, online and offline, continues to be severely restricted. The report highlights that at least 125 journalists were prosecuted for their work. At least 40 women journalists were prosecuted or summoned for their reporting, including on the human rights of women and girls. Many women rights defenders remain imprisoned. Lawyers, human rights defenders, and the families of protest victims are also subjected to intimidation, to coercion, and repression, including imprisonment. The report urges the authorities to release immediately all people detained for legitimately exercising their rights to freedom of opinion, of expression, of association, and peaceful assembly. The report notes the appointment of the first female government spokesperson and other appointments of women to ministerial and gubernatorial positions. In a troubling development, however, there were 179 reported incidents of femicide in 2024, compared with 55 in 2023. While the chastity and hijab law was temporarily suspended, until it and all related laws and policies are fully repealed, they pose a serious threat to the rights of women and girls. The report also expresses concerns about ongoing discrimination against ethnic and religious minorities in law and in practice. The economic crisis, exacerbated by the impact of sanctions, continues to adversely affect living conditions and access to health. Your Excellencies, during the reporting period, Iran continued to engage with the United Nations Human Rights Office, our office, through a technical cooperation framework, as well as with various human rights mechanisms, including the Special Rapporteur on the human rights situation in the Islamic Republic of Iran. The government has participated in its review before the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination and responded to 6 out of 7 communications sent by special procedures. In January, Iran underwent its 4th cycle of the Universal Periodic Review, with the adoption scheduled during this Council session. However, the Secretary General's report regrets that the government has denied access to the independent international fact-finding mission on the Islamic Republic of Iran. Following the renewal of the mission's mandate by this Council, our office calls on the government to fully cooperate with it. Our office remains ready to continue and build on its engagement with the Iranian authorities on the range of issues highlighted in the report of the Secretary General for the promotion and the protection of all human rights. Thank you, Madam Vice.